Right.
All right, Mayor, we're good to go.
All right. Time is now 6 p.m. We'll call this meeting to order.
Special call meeting. Otherwise, we're going to forget our coverage.
Let us pray. Dear Father God, while we have a choice every day to show our thanks and give you praise, we sometimes fail to do this. But tonight, we ask that you accept our gratitude with thanks for all we are, all we have, and all you give. We thank you for your unending, never-failing love. We pray to you and ask for your protection and guidance, your wisdom and grace today and every day. In Jesus' name, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
There's our, other than Philip here, so what are we doing that instance
Nothing.
as far as
I will regulate this.
all council members are here, other than our
Give her
attorney?
the guess.
Yeah, I know.
Give me the guess. No, we're good.
Okay, so keep rolling.
Yep.
We have
He's
any
sick.
public comments that y'all know of?
See if we can clip it.
All right. Move on to Employee Service Awards. Today we want to award Miss Laura Tyner for her utility billing, 5 years of service. So come on up and let's get your award. Which way do you want it?
Either way, it's fine. You're perfect.
Just don't get it.
Just like that. Yeah. We get cursed in the background.
Me and Amanda dodging it.
I always wondered who typed those little letters in there.
Afraid those toll tag tickets are gonna pop back up?
I might be wanted. Y'all need to stop. Maybe I'm busted. No, that's my biggest fear. I act right just because of
Okay.
that.
Moving on to consent agenda. Item A, investment report, quarter 4, fiscal year 2023. Budget report, September 2023, and approval of minutes from regular meetings held October 9th, 2023.
Make a motion to approve consent agenda.
We have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay. Discussion and action items. We have a presentation from our fire department for year-end fiscal year 2023. Come on up.
Right. Clinton, I decided before that I would take the easy part and the comfortable part, and if you had hard questions, then you'll take those.
Perfect.
So,
We didn't decide that part.
were you gonna, there you go.
Yes, sir.
I didn't watermark any of the photography, but we know a photographer if you guys ever need one. So I wanted to, this presentation, Clinton and I talked about it, you know, we understand you probably want more of a regular presentation moving forward, whether it's quarterly, monthly, or annual, however you want it. But we wanted to, since the council was so new, a lot of it was so new, we wanted to give a kind of more in-depth presentation about kind of what we do, who's doing it, when we do it, kind of thing. So going forward, if you want, you know, if you want something a little more regular, we'll probably just leave the fluff at the bottom of the presentation and present the numbers, right? So,
Okay.
but you go ahead, Kirsten. And thank you for.
You in full screen.
Yeah, this looks different. I had an update over the weekend, I guess.
You go right past that part, but.
We are
Yeah. So talk about our members. Right now, you know, we've struggled with membership over the years. We've been higher, we've been lower. Right now, we seem to be kind of efficient, I guess we would call it. We have 10 members, but we have 10 fully qualified members. Anybody can do, they're cross-trained. We have 9 fully qualified. We have 1 probationary member right now. So they're cross-trained. They can do pretty much anything, whether we need them to pump a truck, go interior attack, extricate, whatever they need to do. So to get a person, you know, as we kind of have moved through the years, it used to be an 80-hour course, you know, back when, you know, we were hauling horse and buggy, right? So it used to be an 80-hour course to get a person fully qualified to be an interior firefighter. And now it's well over 100 hours, and it's accredited courses. It's A&M, it's, you know, Angleton. It's not just, you know, we fill out a sheet and they're good to go now. So it's a little bit harder to get them through their basic training. And an aggressive person could probably do it in a year. I mean, that's dedicating a lot of time. Somebody who has this, I don't want to say less aggressive, but maybe have other commitments, family, that kind of thing, it may take them 2 years. So that's kind of one of the curves we're up against when it comes to recruiting and getting people qualified.
If they receive the same training through their employer, does that count for their qualification for the municipal fire?
A lot of the employers are doing like industrial firefighting, so we do more of a municipal attack, municipal firefighting. Is
there some crossover?
Little bit, but a lot of it, you know, when we talk about ventilation, we talk about structures, we talk about, you know, things like that. It's a little different. We do a monthly department training. We meet every Thursday night, but we train twice a month, where we're actually doing a physical training or some kind of, you know, it may be, you know, just a tabletop, and it may be hands-on. We do truck maintenance once a month, and then we have a business meeting once a month. And then other training they go through, we do have, we meet with other departments, so we do a little hands-on training throughout the year with other departments. Angleton also puts on, the Angleton Fire Field, when I say Angleton, it's not Angleton Fire Department, it's Angleton Fire Field. They'll put on training that's sanctioned through TEACS, through Texas A&M. And then we have guys that actually will go up to A&M throughout the summer. They call it Municipal Week. They have Industrial Week, and then they have Municipal Week up there at A&M. You can keep going. And if you guys want to slow down, hopefully I got this out in time where everybody had a chance to take a look at it. And if you want to talk a little bit about anything that we see in there, I just wanted to make sure that, you know, I don't want to go through all these points, but I wanted to make sure that you had them. When do we volunteer? You know, most of our guys volunteer whenever they can, right? It's not, we don't have shifts, we don't have set times. It's, if you're home, you're available, you know, you don't have the kids, and you can come. Right? If it's 2 o'clock in the morning and you can make it, that's great. If you can't, you know, we have a pretty good gauge of who's got what going on, and when they have it going on. So we get pretty good participation when they can. And then outside department training, they train on their time, right? Then if they go to A&M, and that's a big thing that, you know, that's the big sacrifice is when someone has to go up to A&M. You know, you got guys got to take their vacation and or whatever and spend a week that, you know, I can go to Disney or I can go to A&M. And you want to have that conversation with the spouse, I mean. So, but they do it. They choose the extremely difficult, dangerous situations. You know, sometimes it's not so dangerous, but, you know, any given day, any given time, we could be out there directing traffic in the middle of the night on a fender bender, and, you know, flashing lights seem to attract drunks. So, you know, the easiest and you know, the most simple thing that we think we're dealing with becomes tragic or very dangerous pretty quick. So, and then, well, you know, one thing that we're really starting to focus on now is health and injuries. So, you know, we have injuries. You know, injuries right now. Injury, you fall. You know, soft tissue. You cut your hand. Injury, back injury, something like that. But there's really became a lot of interest in, you know, the chronic injuries. You know, the cancers. One thing that we're really seeing, you know, in the PTSD, I mean, that's a real thing with all your first responders. So, you know, we try to work with our guys as much as possible. There's no way we can ever really prepare them, you know, without, but I mean, when we do have the situations, we really have to talk about it. We really have to kind of be there for them. And, you know, knock on wood, I can't say knock on wood, we don't have any problems. We don't know what we don't know. So it's something that we have to be aware of. And then this is a big case right now is and it's, I gave you more information. I think there's some links there. Is heart attacks. You know, any heart attack within 24 hours of going on a scene now is considered a line of duty death. If someone dies of a heart attack, so you know, you go to a scene, you're good to go for a day or a day and a half. You know, the next morning something happens. That's considered line of duty. Again, knock on wood, we haven't had those problems, but we've seen it. You know, 40-year-old guys, 30-year-old guys. It's pretty stressful. You know, you're 95 degrees, 100 degrees, 100 pounds of extra gear on. Some of us aren't in the best shape. So, and then some of the facts, and this was, and I will give you a disclaimer on this fact sheet. This was just, I surfed around the web for a little while, and it looked like pretty reasonable facts. It seemed to be, I mean, it's on the internet, right? So it's got to be right. So we did look at them, and there was some pretty surprising things there. And that number has dropped. 65% of your nation's firefighters are volunteers. It used to be a little higher. It used to be around 80%. But the big number I didn't realize, and these are numbers between 84 and 2002, is you have 25 less firefighters today with 200% more calls. So that's, you know, that just goes to, we're running efficient now. We're probably running a little closer to where we need to be versus where we were 10, 15 years ago, where you had 4 trucks full of people and, you know, 2 trucks were standing around watching the other guy work. So if we can be a little leaner, be a little more efficient, especially with the cost of training, the cost of equipment, the cost of everything out there, we want to make sure we're putting our money right where it needs to be. And just, you know, they just listed some stuff in there that this was, you know, I think I've talked to a couple council people about the volunteers in the area, and this was one that I'd always thought about that you know, the higher cost of living in the area, you know, where we're at. So when we're looking for volunteers, or when volunteers we get are usually young families, right? They're young guys. They're, you know, they could be even not have families yet, but they're, you know, just getting started. And, you know, does Richwood really have a huge amount of reasonable housing cost for those starting out families? Yeah, there's some, but the inventory, I think, is probably pretty slim when it comes to starter families and starter homes in the Richwood area. So we miss out, I think, on some of those younger guys.
Can you go back?
Sure.
What is it? You say you're getting abuse from the public?
That was in that slide. That was in
on the internet?
Yeah.
Man, I know these kids. I talked to your counterpart there, the 4th of July thing. You couldn't get those kids off y'all's trucks. Yeah. They adore you guys. That's the only reason I'd love to see more of y'all out there. And
I think the abuse that you see is more of isn't the PR stuff. It's on the scene, right? When you're, you know, we've had confrontations when somebody thinks that they can burn this great big pile of brush on a Saturday night in their backyard, and, you know, the guy comes out to walk in to talk to you with a stick in his hand. What are you gonna do with that stick? I'm not sure where we're going here, but I mean, that's, you know, people get hostile, especially, you know, you don't know what they're going through or what they're on or what they're going through. So I think that's kind of probably what they're talking about a little bit more there. But
hoping y'all didn't have any of that going on in Richwood as far as abuse from the public.
You didn't hear anything, did you?
Not that I know of.
No. We have it, and again, for the most part, I mean, the public is very supportive of us. Okay. There are events, and this is what we break down. We've really started doing a better job this year about tracking our hours. We've actually, you know, we're in that age now where I put a little barcode on the wall, and the guy can zap it with his phone, and he can say, "Yep, I was here for 2 hours," or "I went on this call." So we're capturing hours a little better than we have in the past. So right now, and this is old data, it's 2 weeks old, so we're probably a little closer to 1,800 hours out now, but we're at 1,700 hours for in volunteered hours, so. And just a little breakdown up there of where we spend our time and where it goes to. And then just kind of, you know, what do we consider maintenance, training, you know, administrative, that's mostly Clint and I, so 16 of those hours are mine, and I think Clint gets one. Yeah, you know, we don't capture every hour. I mean, we can't, but we try our best. And then kind of areas of response. So 50%, 53% of what we respond to is in our area. And then 17, that's the city limits. Then 17% is that's the ETJ. And then you can see our mutual aid agreements with other departments. You know, we are in the same boat where everybody else is. There's no fire department in this area that can handle their own house fire, their own structure fire. We're just past that. We're you know, when you're looking at needing 25 to 30 guys to, you know, to successfully and safely handle something, you're not going to get that from anybody. So we've learned to work with others. We've put automatic responses in, you know, that kind of automatic tone, stuff like that. I mean, we're past the point where we can, you know, from the time you get a tone at 2 o'clock in the morning to the time you get to a scene, you're taking 10, 15 minutes. And if it took you 10, 15 minutes to get there, how long is it going to take your mutual aid department to get there? So you could be a good 40 minutes into a call before you get your help there. So we've been proactive and said, you know what, we're going to start early. We're just going to, it's easier to turn them around than it is to get them there.
Yeah.
So, any questions on the responses? Or, yeah. If I'm taking too much time, speed me up. Just a breakdown of our events. You know, hazardous condition is everything from a gas leak to, you know, debris in the road, stuff like that. Alarms, we don't have the problems that other cities do, just because we have a lot less commercial buildings. But when you sit there and you listen to the Angletons and the Lake Jacksons, they run a ton of false alarms. You know, and that's just, you know, the problem with that is that you get desensitized to that, and all of a sudden, oh, I got a smoke alarm going off at somebody's house at 2 o'clock in the morning. Well, you know, someone didn't change your batteries, and you mosey on out there, or somebody doesn't show up, and then you get there and you find out that you have a true issue. So we continue to have to, you know, we treat alarms like they're conditions until we determine otherwise. And then vehicle accidents. Yeah, that's kind of a broad spectrum. That's everything from, you know, traffic control, helping block traffic, keep them off the PD while they do an investigation, to a full-on extrication. You know, so that's a pretty broad area there. Public assist, snakes and possums in the house in the middle of the night. We've had those too.
I've seen you on quite a few brush fires as well.
Yeah, and it's surprisingly been a quiet year.
She's so nosy.
Nice listening.
It's at 2
Sherry's
o'clock in
always
the
in my
morning.
business.
Also on.
Yeah, but we didn't quite, I don't think, meet the 2011 area. 2011 was horrible. I mean, everybody was done. They were wore out. They were just, I mean, but it's for the drought that we had this year and the conditions we had this year, it was pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty quiet. So Clint, I mean, this is Clint's slide. You want to make sure if you want to.
So really, just kind of want to talk about how we're funded, because I know sometimes this could be a little confusing or not fully understanding where all the money comes from. So we have 3 different areas, 2 that we rely on pretty heavily. And as we go through some of these next slides, when we start talking about, you know, the trucks and how they were purchased and who does what, again, it's just to kind of break it down for a lot of you newer council members. But the city budget obviously is what you guys approve us to use, you know, for our standard operating cost. And then one of the apparatuses that we have out of the 7 is funded with city budget. Donation and county funds. So donations are obviously, you know, just general donations that people give, or, you know, fundraisers and stuff like that. But the other piece of that donations, which is key to to the fire department is the water bill donations, the $1.50 a month that you pay on your water bill that comes to the fire department. You'll see, like again, as we get into some of these next slides, how some of those funds are used. So you'll kind of see how critical that is to us to be able, because we operate off of an internal budget as well as a city budget. So we budget for items with the donations and the county funds as well. Again, we'll talk about that here in a minute. From the county fund perspective, we do get a check from Brazoria County, being a part of the Brazoria County Firefighters Association, to cover funds for, basically that's for our ETJ calls, ETJ calls, which is the county area that we service that doesn't have to do with the city. So it's $20,000 a year, so it's not a whole lot when you look at the money that we spend out in the county on tankers and brush trucks and stuff like that. So so that's where kind of the donations and county funds come in. And the last one, again, this isn't a major source of funding. It can be, and it was back in 2007. From the Texas Forestry Service, we do the House Bill 2604 grant that we apply for. I continually renew that every year. But training, most of the training is House Bill 2604 reimbursable, which means we get 100% of the training funds back. There are some trainings that aren't. Equipment, they also have an equipment category. Our rescue tools we have, it's for, the jaws of life, general kind of equipment like that. PPE and bunker gear, wildland gear, they have grants for that. And then tanker, they have your much larger grants for tankers and pumpers and small brush trucks. And that's how Engine 2 was purchased back in 2007. So we got a grant for, it's in the slide on that one, but we'll talk about that in a minute. But they funded a portion of that, and then the fire department had to come up with the rest. We were approved a couple weeks ago for a large chassis grant for up to $100,000, but it wasn't. We didn't have any need for it at this time. So that what they're doing is they funded all the departments in the state of Texas for their first round of apparatus, and now they're on their second round. And so Engine 2 was our first round, and so we're pretty high up now on the being able to get another apparatus. So if we accepted this one, we would basically be saying we don't want another one until round 3, which would be 2007 to now, so close to 13, 14 years or whatever. So we declined that one in hopes in the next couple of years we'll be able to take advantage of $240,000 grant for another tanker pumper. So that's kind of, again, these numbers will make more, or these items, categories will make more sense as we start to go through these next couple of slides, but that's really kind of where a lot of our funding comes from. And we'll talk about how it's spent. Do you want me to continue?
Yeah, you're good.
So tired. Huh?
I was tired.
You're tired, okay. So Engine 1 is our newest truck. We call this our city pumper again, because of the way the grants work in the county on Engine 2. But so Engine 1, this is our main apparatus for the city. It has our rescue tools on it. It's fully set up for firefighting and extrication. Got our ram, our spreader, the cutter. We got stabilization kits. A lot of wood on there for cribbing. We got trauma kits, and then all of our firefighting stuff from fans to, a lot of hose and stuff like that. This truck was funded, and again, this is one of the categories talking about donations and county funds. It'll be paid off in year 2033. The original cost of it was $493,000. The volunteer fire department paid $90,000 of that as a down payment. And when we say non-city funds, again, that's out of the donations and county funds. And then the annual payment is in our city budget of $32,000 that we pay each year out of the city budget that you guys approve. Next. So Engine 2, this is the 2008 truck. This was the one that was approved for a grant back in 2007 through the Texas Forestry Service. There are qualifications for that. It has to meet a certain GPM pump per minute. The tank capacity has to be a little bit larger than what's on Engine 1. Engine 1's 1,000 gallons. This one's 1,200. And then this one, it has to be considered a tanker, so you're required to be able to draft off the front of it and have a dump tank, a dump valve on the back. This was actually out at the prison farm fire, when the big barn caught on fire out in the one at Nangleton. So we actually established the water supply, and we're drafting out of that pond for this entire operation. So that was a requirement of that truck, and it comes in handy often. And then the dump valve it's in the back where the gate opens up. That was a requirement to have, I believe, for the first 10 years. We have since had that removed because it was leaking and causing issues. But we satisfied the grant requirements, so we removed that to avoid the leaking of the tank. It has everything the engine 1 does, with the exception of rescue tools. There's no rescue tools or any sort of cribbing or struts on this truck. And it was funded by the donations of the county fund. Original cost was $384,000, $348,000. The grant paid $108,000, and the volunteer fire department paid $240,000 out of non-city funds. So this truck was fully funded through donations and county funds in the grant. Tanker 1, this is, we bought this actually when we bought the new engine. Our old tanker was just, I don't remember how old that thing is. It was pretty old. It was pretty causing, we had a lot of issues with it, but we were able to get this and engine 1 at the same time, and got a little bit of a deal. So this one, it's basically, it can be used as a pump or an engine as well. We call it a tanker pumper. It's got 2,200 gallons, so it can be used. It's the pump and all that certified for firefighting abilities if needed. But we mainly use it in the larger fires outside of the city, or in the city where we need, bulk water. This one, again, was funded all by donations from county funds and fire department. Again, like the city engine is, it's 2033 payoff. Cost $275,000. We paid a down payment of $64,000 to get our payments where we could budget them, for an annual payment of $18,000. So again, that's where our budget comes in, off those donations that we get off the water bill and just county money and other donations. Next is brush truck. It's a 2011. It's a modified F550. It's what it is. It's for brush, lots of off-road and heavy brush, mud, rocks. We've been out to Quintana and the beach. To me, it's basically a mini pumper. We've also used it for high water rescues during the 2 high water events that we had here. It's got a 350-gallon water tank. So we don't have a whole lot of water on there, but for brush fires, we get pretty efficient with it. This one was fully funded with the again, the fire department donations and county funds. It is paid off. We originally paid $95,000 for it. Down payment, we paid for, wrote a check for it. The bed and the skid we recently had rebuilt in 2020. We did use a little bit of our equipment replacement fund through the city budget, $45,000. And then we paid an additional $20,000 to get that complete. Next is our drone capabilities. So we do have a couple of drones within the department. They've come in really handy. You're really starting to kind of see a lot of departments have a need for these, not only in the fire industry, but police as well. But you're not seeing a whole lot of fire departments. I think Lake Jackson, they have a couple, and then the county fire marshal's office did have a couple. Last I heard, they weren't able to use them because they didn't have licensing for them, but we do. So you can see a couple pictures there. The one on the bottom right is a picture of the IR thermal. They do thermal imaging, so it makes it really nice when we're looking for hot spots.
Yeah. To your point on the number of brush fires, before we had this technology, we responded to brush fires because they get in such thick areas. And this is one of the examples we use now that since we've started using drones, we haven't had to go back to a brush fire because we were able to see those hot spots and you know, you got a guy standing there that says, you're standing right next to it, you're parked right next to it, just spray down. He's like, there's nothing there, and he sprays down and all the flames pop up. So that part has really, it prevents us from having to go back. And so that was one thing that did.
How many licensed pilots do we have for them?
Just one, just me.
Okay.
So and how the license works is I have to be, I can control, and people are working on them. And so I control the flight, so he can fly it. I have to be there to take control, all right? So I can, you know, anybody can fly it, anybody that wants to learn or anything like that. So we do have
And we
a
have
couple
two?
people.
We have 2 of them?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's
So
the
we do have
cost for
people.
those?
The initial cost was, the drones were about $5,000, and then the outfits, registrations and all that was about another $5,000, so you're looking at 20, the two, rough numbers.
And that's the landfill?
Yeah,
Our
top of the-
Yeah, when you said about the
multiple
blowout the other
landfill
day,
fires?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's what happened a couple years ago, they had a blowout. You can see the operation from down there at the bottom, we had, I think, 9 tankers from across the county out there, and well over 100,000 gallons of water to put that out in one day. It was quite the operation.
And then the other one is just for vehicle accidents. That's becoming real common these days for larger accidents, just to help them kind of reconstruct it and get their measurements and field of view and stuff, so. Next.
Yeah, have you ever had both of them flying at the same time?
Damon?
Out of Damon, yeah, on the grass 36.
You're incriminating yourself. Can't be doing that. Only one licensed pilot here.
As long as Mark's there. it's
I'm
okay.
kidding.
But we've actually, we talked about it, and Damon is, and that's kind of, the thing about the licenses is, the fire marshal at the time, he's like, you got your drone with you? I said, yeah, I have it. He goes, well, you can fly mine too, but I can't fly mine, because again, everybody that they had was a licensed pilot, is gone. We were down at Freeport, they had fire down there, the Lake Jackson Fire Marshal was down there, their batteries are gone, they're dead. I mean, so these things are, eventually gonna have it up, I guess, but
No water capacity on them? 1 gallon, nothing? Got the wrong drones.
Well, yeah, we can look at those.
I think we got enough in drone funds for now.
And this is really just kind of our coverage area, it just kind of shows what all we cover, including ETJ, obviously. The city in 2004, and doesn't include so much on Old Ingleton Road, out on 523, 223, down towards Oyster Creek area. So pretty large coverage area for our size, outside the city.
Yeah, we're basically inside the bayou, inside the creek. It was kind of our, that's it.
Yeah, I've seen y'all in Angleton's jurisdiction, because y'all are closer to where I used to live than Angleton. So y'all made the scene first.
Well, and that's what's crazy. Like technically we only go to half of the Bastrop bridge down in 2004. They'll get accidents sometime at the intersection. Sometimes they'll call us, sometimes they won't. It just depends on where the caller is when they call, if they hit which 911 tower and all that. But I mean, yeah, we could be there within 4 or 5 minutes, and it takes Angleton,
It's kind
13, 14
of,
minutes.
it's kind of interesting if you take this map and then go onto Google Earth and start measuring who's got what. It's,
And Freeport's like that too. Have that little section on Surfside.
yeah.
Crazy.
So again, and we know this was probably a little bit longer than what you guys wanted. Hopefully in the future we'll shorten it up a little bit. But again, just kind of wanted to walk y'all through, questions, how we operate, how we're funded, the different types of funding, and how we use that funding. Because I know that's, what do they do with this money? What do they do with that money? It just kind of goes to show that, we try to take as much as we can to take that limit or to take that burden off of the city. But there are times when certain apparatuses that we do need that, and ultimately funding eventually will shrink down. So just wanted to put all that out there.
I appreciate the packet. I think it gives us a good baseline understanding of what you guys have and what you're working with, and maybe, potential needs in the future. I think as we think about moving forward and continual presentations and or meetings, it may be helpful for us to understand what you have coming in and what you have going out. That way, when those discussions do happen about stuff that you need in the future, and, you know, maybe some deficiencies that you have as far as equipment and or funds for training, et cetera, it'll help us make a better educated decision on how to get those allocated for y'all.
Yeah, I mean, and most of it's captured under the city budget reports, and bulk of our water bill money and all that goes towards truck payments and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, we can probably get that broken down.
What's the life of all y'all's trucks? You
So-
said one was 17 years old already?
20 years, so 20 years, so that's, I know maybe Mr. Johnson, maybe Rory, everybody else I think is newer since we've had discussions, but, so that grant truck that's back in from 2008, so that one will be up in 2028, so, we've talked with Eric about it, but, you know, probably in the next year or two, we probably will need to start having some serious discussions on replacing that. Lead times has gotten a little better on trucks, but they're still probably 2 years out from the time of order. So, but again, hopefully, what we found out, you know, last couple of weeks with that grant, hopefully timing will be about right with that to help as well.
Keep your fingers crossed.
Yeah.
You know, just kind of, you know, areas we don't want to get back to, and it's funny because we're archiving a lot of those papers and files you found laying around. So, you know, one place we don't want to get back to is when, as late as '99 and 2000, a firefighter, when they signed up, they had to agree to pay half of their radio payment every month on the $1,200 radio. The tanker that was there when I got there was a 1967 Chevy with a 1,000-gallon water tank that had been rebuilt twice at the prison. And it was just basically somebody had an old truck and with a can of red paint, and it had 1,200 miles on it.
There you go.
Oh, that thing was treacherous. You know, you put 1,000 miles, yeah, it was, you remember that thing?
Did you have fun in it?
Yeah. I mean, so, yeah, it was, yeah, it's kind of the areas we don't want to go back to, right? That's where we're,
But y'all's stuff is all in good working order,
Yeah.
so it's not imperative to get it right now, right?
we're,
You sure y'all don't want to go back to that radio payment thing? I mean, I think we'd be okay with
there
that.
was some interesting, I'll share some with you. There was some interesting documents in there.
What benefits does a volunteer fireman receive?
So we get, obviously, we get the discount on the water bill up to 3,000 gallons. Other than that, there's 5 of the 10 members in the pension, but the pension you don't get until you're 15 years of service in. So, and then obviously you got to be at retirement age and all that. So it's nothing that you get immediate. You got to put in at least the 15 years to be 100% invested. But other than that,
I mean, when I started, we didn't have the pension. Even when we started the pension, I mean, I couldn't, my vision wasn't that far away. It's a lot closer now that it's within a year.
we took him off, so he's got to stay in here a little bit. But yeah, I mean, there's no really immediate upfront stuff that we get.
It's kind of hard to tell a 21-year-old, hey, if you stay in for, you know, you're 21, if you stay in for 35 years, you know, you're going to get this, and they're like,
I kick myself in the butt all the time for not staying in the Army and getting that retirement. Just like you say, you're not forward thinking.
but I think the benefits and just on that, the benefits the guys aren't in it. The guys that are in it for the water bill or whatever, they're not in it for the water bill. I mean,
Right. No, I don't think anybody's in it for the water bill.
I mean,
So that's why I was curious.
And there's currently nobody receiving a pension, right? You would probably be the first that has reached that 15-year
I
milestone.
think we're
correct?
2 years out because we.
I mean, 2 years out.
Nah, we started it back in
2010.
2010, so we're still a couple of years out
Yep.
from.
Okay, cool.
And from that time when we started it, it's me, him, and one others that's still here. So
Not that I would retire at 55, but I sure would like to be able to hold that over his head.
that's what I said. We took him off, so he's really at like 12 years, so he's got 3 more to go.
Maybe you can add one more time, see what happens.
I definitely want to thank you guys for everything you guys do. I know the entire community appreciates it, and
the reality that if we have a fire, it could take out multiple homes, and you guys are there watching our back at all the time. It's just, it's nice to know that y'all are here and y'all are supporting this community, so thank you.
We appreciate it.
I did have a question about the volunteers, kind of the meism, I think is what the term is there any type of intentional efforts to attract more volunteers?
Yeah, and that's a great question, and yeah, we've tried, and we see other departments, and that's kind of the questions that I ask, and I haven't got a real definitive answer, but you see some departments that really do a great job of recruiting, but then when you ask them, what's your retention, right? Because, you know, my work, we do a great job of recruiting too, and Mike, you know this, but
Right.
we have a 70% turnover in the first year on drivers, so it's, you know, what is, you know, the problem is if I recruit somebody and I spend $3,500 to put him in gear and send him to school, you know, that's a big loss when he decides to, you know, I don't mind if he goes and says, hey, yeah, that was great, but now I'm gonna move to Lake Jackson and buy a house. And that's great because you're still there for me. I'm stuck with your gear, but you're there for me, right? You're just going to a neighboring department, but the guys just, you know, they don't show up anymore. That's kind of.
I'll tell you, my wife is really good at recruiting people with the Special Blessings group. Some of these guys know about it, but I'll just give you some advice at how she does it. She just keeps planning parties, you know, and if people show up, they show up. If they don't, they don't. So you just have events, and that seems to work well.
And I guess the only caution I have is, and again, going through the old applications, well, they denied tons of people back in the 90s and 80s. I mean, they just, you know, denied. And we've had some guys come in that just were not going to be a good fit, you know, and we don't want to put anybody, first of all, we don't want to put anybody in there that's going to hurt us, but then we don't want to put anybody in a situation where they're going to hurt themselves. I mean, you've heard the stories where volunteer firefighters doing 90 miles an hour down the road to get to a grass fire, and you know, he hits and kills a car full of people or something like that. That's the kind of stuff that we got to watch for. So yeah, we got to, not to be picky, but we got to be careful.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a threshold that we have to reach to no longer have volunteer where you have a set department? Because what if these guys, you don't get volunteers, and at some point you start losing volunteers, and you don't have enough to substantiate?
Yeah, so, I mean, that's a huge threshold. I mean, you have some departments, Angleton, Pearland, and Freeport, they have, Freeport has it fully paid, but a lot of the other ones have a combination department. And, you know, that's, when you look at, you gotta have at least 4 guys on shift to be considered a team, or at least 2 guys, I guess, if you got a good mutual aid agreement.
And it really changes your requirements. Right now, we fall under the volunteer, you know, NFPA, but when you go to pay, it's a whole other set of lower requirements for, you know, apparatuses, your station, supplies, like it becomes quite a bit more pricey, which is why you don't see a lot of cities do it.
Yeah. I guess kind of, you know, it's a horrible way to say it, but return on investment is, you know, I can burn down a house for $100,000, $200,000, I could, you know, spend $1 million a year and never need them. I mean, it's a hard way to look at it, it's a hard way to put it, but when you struggle already, I think in the future you're going to have to do something, especially in large areas like this that grow together. You know, there's probably an opportunity to do joint stuff between areas.
That's what I was wondering. I mean, you already do so much joint, you almost need like a larger group together.
You're getting a lot closer to being able to do that than you were 20 years ago. I mean, 20 years ago you would have brought that up, and I could probably have 2 chiefs walking in here from neighboring departments ready to beat me up now. But we're getting closer to being, for people to understand that we need to be kind of like dispatching and stuff like that, where you know, you have 4 cities, 4 different dispatchers, 4 different departments, where, you know, anywhere else in the country, you have 1 dispatcher that would do this whole county.
Yeah.
So it would.
How does a volunteer deal with their employer? Like, you know, they have 2 or 3 calls on a week, and they're late to work or miss some work hours, things like that. How do the employers around here deal with that?
I think each employer is different, and, you know, I think that most around here are pretty open, but I mean, a lot of our guys, I mean, I know I've made plenty of trips up to the Woodlands, you know, after being up for 4 or 5 hours in the middle of the night, and that's a lot of the guys. I mean, we'll do it in the middle of the night, and we'll shower and go straight to work.
Yeah.
But, you know, if you're a little late or whatever, I mean, because for the most part, the employers, we hadn't had any guys that reported any issues or, hey, I just can't come, you know, whatever.
But we also put it on the volunteer that you're responsible for doing what you can get away with. You know, if your employer's not gonna be cool with it, don't risk your job for a volunteer. And we've had, you know, those guys I talk about, we've had guys that have screwed up jobs because, you know, they want to sit around and wait for the tone to drop all day long. And, you know, you're gonna have that, I guess, anywhere, but we've seen it.
I know, like, our company, they allow us so many hours a year volunteer, but it's usually like planned. But, you know, I don't know, it's just a consideration, just a
I think
thought,
the
you
guys
know.
are probably taking some sick days or something like that.
You know, if we knew that there was employers here that would back the volunteer fire department, we might get more recruits, because there's probably some guys that don't do it because, hey, I work a shift, you know, or things like that. You know, my employer's never going to help me out with that. So I was just brainstorming a little bit.
One thing that we used to see in the past, and it wasn't as big here because we didn't have a lot of commercial, but if you were a good standing firefighter in your department and you worked in Richwood or you worked in Lake Jackson, you become an associate member. Because that was the big time is, you know, during the day, you didn't have, you know, everybody was at work. So, you know, if you were were a firefighter in Richwood, but you worked in Lake Jackson, or a firefighter in Clue worked in Lake Jackson, they would allow you to be a firefighter during the day at their department, as long as your employer would allow that. We appreciate it. We took up a lot of time, but appreciate it.
Thanks.
I'd like to go on record
Thank you.
as saying that KRB fully supports the fire department, and we're willing to help in fundraising, whatever we need to do to help support you guys and whatever you'll need, because a well-funded department is gonna attract more volunteers, and technology isn't cheap, and we don't know what you need yet, because there's new stuff coming out all the time that you might need. So we'd be happy to help raise money, whatever you'll need.
Appreciate it. And, you know, we will say that, you know, the relationship between the city departments is a lot better now than it has been in years past. I mean, with Public Works and PD, I mean, it's been rough around here the last 20 years from time to time. So, you know, we appreciate that, you know, that relationship with the city employees as well.
Well, let's look ahead, going together,
Right here,
you know.
volunteer firefighter. He's here all day long.
There you go.
I don't think his employer.
He puts out his own fires all day.
He's salary, he can make up the time. See you Thursday.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can we get one of those cool jackets, Clint?
Yeah.
Are you joining the party money?
Donation. Okay. All right. Action item B, discuss and consider approving the development of a GIS mapping system in an amount not to exceed $20,000.
Council, I wanted to bring this to you. GIS mapping, or Geographical Information System mapping, is now an interactive web-based software that we can utilize to keep our maps updated, make changes, make notes in real time. This largely is in part based on Councilman Challenger's comments in the past meeting about the maps and keeping maps updated for the purposes of streamlined maintenance and inventory on our assets such as valves and hydrants, things of this sort. In light of the recent disaster, I thought the timing was good to bring this before council and hopefully help you understand where it would make sense. But also, in the past, we first started looking at GIS mapping in 2018 when Freeze and Nichols did the capital improvement project study. At that time, we were talking between 50 and 70,000 to develop the maps. And that was a lot in part because we did not have the shape files necessary for that map development. But now that we've gone through the capital improvement projects study, the drainage, the stormwater master plan, we have a lot of the shape files for drainage, water, wastewater, and some for streets. So we have a really good basis to start with. And that being the case, Strand has come back with a price of $17,000 for development of those maps. And we're requesting 20. It's simply because it depends on the layers that you want to add. You know, if we were to do this, we know we want to encompass water and wastewater at least. If we could get streets and drainage, I think it would only benefit the city in the future. And past that, we have some finite expenses, which would be iPad Pro with cell surface to be able to make those adaptations to the maps on the fly in the field. This ranges from anywhere from fire hydrant change-outs, new line install, repairs, line material, size, fittings. It can encompass almost anything within a water and wastewater system. It will help us better track system conditions in the future, and also help us better report to council the conditions of the water and wastewater system, possibly drainage and streets, as we inventory these things and make notes, and the maps become more populated with the information we can put or add to them. So with that cost, I wanted to approach council and see if you guys would consider giving me the go-ahead to pursue this, being that it's quite a bit less expensive than what it was in 2018. And I think in light of this this blowout, I think council can see where this would benefit, or we can make notes of areas that might be problematic, or areas that we have made repairs that maybe were deficient because of the repair we had to make. And in future times, we can start highlighting areas of distribution, water distribution, wastewater collection, that need replacement for very specific reasons and be justifiable to council.
I just have a couple questions on the cost breakdown. So if I'm reading it correctly, the upfront cost will be about $18,500 and then roughly $1,600 annually on a recurring basis.
If I'm reading correctly, yes, for the cellular service and the hosting fees.
Okay.
And the fees did include a creator and a viewer. So we have a login for someone to go in and make those modifications to the maps. And you also have a login for a viewer, whether it be Eric or council, or something we can download for the public on, that's not interactive.
Okay. And it sounds like once it's complete, there's a potential for a faster reaction to issues that may pop up or occur. Is there any potential savings for maybe engineering in future capital projects?
Possibly.
Okay.
Possibly. With the system like this, I think it's good to get it in place, but you do have some work to do to get to make notes on the system to where I think they're actually usable for other entities like engineering. But yeah, I think that's very possible.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Do we have the money for it?
Yes, sir.
You always have money for him.
So what does it look like on the, I don't know anything about this, so just kind of walk me through it. Is it like an engineering, it's on the computer obviously, what is it? It's a map?
Yeah, it wouldn't be so different, Mike, than what you see on paper maps or a PDF copy. What you can do is you can
zoom in
you
on
have
a part
different
or something.
layers. You can highlight your water, you can highlight your wastewater, you can tap on certain areas, any facts that you might have on that particular area, being water line size, material. There's points that you add that stay in there, that you add facts. If you touch on that point, you might have a repair clamp there done in 87, so on and so forth. And these layers, you have the capability with water, wastewater, street drainage, same thing with all these layers.
Yeah, I think my goal when I was originally talking about that was just knowing where these things are, these valves are, and
Well, see, and this will help us out, because paper maps are maps on PDF. Last time we did them were 2018. And consider that for a second. A lot has already changed. We have a whole new water plant. We have dead-end tie-ins. We have new construction, additional line we put in. We have new hydrants. So we have a lot going on, and every time we change something to go update these maps, you're really paying somebody to update shapefiles and charge you a bunch of money to print you out a new piece of paper.
So is there like some long neon map that is here? That's what I was told, that there's actually a map of all the stuff. It was like, they said it was like a very long neon colored map.
I have a,
You haven't seen that?
we have 2x3s of our water and wastewater system. Now, we have a foam board that Eric has in his office, but
That's not for.
You don't know anything about
But that's
that?
not for his
No
stuff. We have a
neon
map
maps
that's
I'm aware
highlighted,
of.
but it's used for emergency management when we are,
Maybe.
yeah.
when we are mapping
Not that I'm aware
roads.
of.
So
No idea what you're talking
theoretically, if we had, you said the maps were last done in 2018. Say the maps were redone and we immediately implemented this system at that time, all those changes that have occurred since 2018 would have been updated within this system, so it's like an evergreen map.
In real time.
Okay.
Correct. Correct.
Cliff, my only question is, so we're gonna pay about $18,000 for this to get initially kicked off, and you said earlier there's a lot of gate valves that we don't know where they are. So how is this mapping gonna show us where they are? Or are we just going to, all right, well, we found one, let's pin it on here, and as we go, or are we paying $18,000 for them to run a camera through here, through our system, to be like, all right, there's a gate valve here, there's a gate valve here, and it pins it on this map? Because if not, I feel like we're paying $18,000 to just document where stuff is as we find it.
That's part of it, but I don't think that would be totally accurate. That the $18,000 is going to buy you the baseline maps, all the shape files, the assembly of that, and putting it into the web-based software. But it's going to use what guide we have now, which our paper maps are basically an overview of the city. So that's all we have to use. So we will start with that. That will be our baseline, and then we'll build as we go into the future. And the way that we'll do that is with valve exercising, hydrant exercising and maintenance, which are numbers I owe you guys anyway over the next year, year and a half. So as we continue our maintenance efforts, we will update any changes we see at intersections where valve groupings are and things like that.
So you have to go out and find.
So we're just documenting the unknowns, they're known unknowns that we know about that we're gonna document for future reference.
I'm sorry, initially? Is it?
Yes.
We're just documenting what we know to be there according to several different maps.
I think what Rory's asking, I mean, forgive me if I'm wrong, but I think what they're both trying to ask is about what percentage of the base map is gonna get on round one? In other words,
Yeah.
do we have 60% mapped
What
already?
percent is gonna be correct and accurate?
Yes.
That kind of?
Initially, until we start
Finding.
human validating
Yes.
I would
where valves are.
estimate that we're probably 75% accurate at least with the existing.
Okay.
I mean, I think it might be more than that, but I guess you walk a mile in these shoes, you'll understand that you find a lot of things out there
Oh, yeah.
that are not consistent with the maps and that are important to note. Not necessarily just line size, but material, condition, amount of breaks within a certain linear footage, things like that. So the mapping is one aspect, but to be able to keep up with the condition of the system in real time and make notes based on that is really I think is a real plus to it.
You'll be able to use this system to track the notes, like you said,
Yes.
and then be able to go through it and find out, kind of put things on a replacement schedule.
Yeah, well, yes, it could be used for that.
Okay.
It very possibly very beneficial to the fire department as well. Just to know the age, as we start entering these things, age of fire hydrants, stuff like that, a little bit more.
So you can search based on the notes or the information you input.
I guess where I'm at on it is I see the importance of having good schematics to maintain a city or a piece of equipment. I just don't really know much about this yet, and I feel like I'm not ready to make a decision on it. I'd love to see what kind of maps that we actually have, what do we have, and just, I don't feel like this is something that I would probably vote on right now.
Okay.
But I don't want to discourage you. I just want to say that I think that we need something. I just don't know enough about this yet to say yes at this point.
Okay, and if that's kind of across the board, the feeling, I can show you the maps we have now. I did not have the ability to probably also do a demo.
I can come in outside of a council meeting if you'd like, and we can look at some stuff if you have something, but that's just where I'm at right now. I just don't know a whole lot about it. But I still do say the same thing. We need to know what the schematics are.
Right, and like I said, our paper maps or PDF format is just a baseline. It's all it can ever be. So an interactive system like that, to be able to achieve what you're talking about and make updates and notes in real time, is going to be this.
Okay.
And that I think this is my one option, but it's also the very best option, according to
Thank you for that.
What I've seen. So if I don't know if council wants to make a decision or has any recommendations for.
And Cliff, just from my knowledge, and you're the SME on it, I know as a homeowner, if I'm gonna dig, it always says, before you dig, call 811, and they verify that wherever you're digging, there's nothing there. Do the maps that we have, do they coincide with 811's mapping of what's underground? Because there's so much.
Unfortunately, they don't. They're not city-owned utilities, so we have no documentation of that whatsoever. That's why we have to call 811, but nothing overlaps with other utilities like that.
I think the last 3 lines that we've hit, 2 of the 3 were not on any map, and 811 didn't know they were there.
Yeah.
So it's
Because 811, am I understanding it correctly, they just facilitate each individual utility company coming out to mark their specific lines. 811 doesn't even have anything that is comprehensive of everything, right?
They have access to maps, but it's not comprehensive to everything. It's bits and pieces here they have to pull. So they might have facts.
Because the one time I had to call, I had to wait individually for the gas company to come. I had to wait for
You're correct.
Comcast or whoever,
Yeah.
But they're all, to your point, everybody is kind of at this point with GIS. You either have good baseline maps going in, and you're now capturing that data, or you are on pen and paper and you're in the Stone Age. And that's where this crossover point is right now. Even if Cliff put a new valve in today or put a new line in today, he's going to write it down on a piece of paper and he's going to go stick it in the closet back here. And
pretty ugly.
6 weeks from now, when Cliff gets really frustrated, walks off the job, that piece of paper stuck in the closet back there, and nobody knows it.
I do try to note it and keep it on my laptop.
Yeah.
No, I agree. There's a lot of institutional knowledge that we have to document, and so GIS is obviously the leading authority, and you go to the BCAD, the County Appraisal District, everything's GIS now. Even your smallest counties are using it. So, and you say, this is one method. What's the other alternative, though?
I don't know.
I don't think there really is another alternative
that gives me this type
be
of
universal.
Correct.
For everything. So,
and one of the things that I think should be pointed out is a lot of our bigger projects now in the engineering is baseline GIS. It's already in there. And luckily our engineering firms have been nice enough to share that data. If we like do a project now, it's shovel ready, but it stalls out for grant money or whatever the case may be, they can come 2 years, 3 years let down the road. We've been fortunate enough where they have shared that GIS with a new inbound company, but that's not always going to be the case because it's proprietary to them.
Yes,
Yeah.
we're having that issue now.
Yeah, it's a business. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
And so, you know, at some point, whether it be today, tomorrow, next year, whatever, it is only going to behoove us to put things in GIS for our own city. And like I said, we have those files now. It's just we don't have anywhere to put them.
Yeah, I think it'd only be beneficial for maintenance issues, information to council, inventory of the utilities and their assets now and into the future, and for myself and other managers that come along.
So just forward thinking, if this were to get approved and you have this wealth of knowledge stored away in the office, you know, how long would that take to implement into GIS? Like, you know, incorporating your notes or any services that Public Works have done into there. I'm just thinking, you know, how many man hours is that going to take? Is it a good summer intern project for, you know?
Yeah, very possibly.
For somebody to come and do, or
we're fortunate enough. We have an individual went to school for this, and she is, you know, really good with stuff like this. It would be something we would utilize her skills and maybe summer internship if that came about. So yeah,
I think it's important to extract everybody's institutional knowledge before we.
Yes.
You know, we never know what can happen.
But I think it's a good idea. It would be nice to be able to grab somebody and put them out there, knowing what they're doing, and you know, make updates over summer or a few months.
Who's going to get us our first layer, though? That's what I'm. That's
we
why is that question is at what point?
The water, Nichols possesses those.
Yeah.
I love Ryan to death with freezing nickels. We can't get those for some reason. I think.
Yeah.
They want us to.
Sure.
You know, but we're under contract with Strand. I feel responsible to address Strand first, and they're very experienced in doing this.
So you're saying 75%ish we could get?
I think our baseline maps are at least 75% correct, and I think that number is even higher.
Yeah.
When we're talking about location of valves, hydrants, you got to keep in mind our first round of maps were 99. And the second round was 2018. Oakwood Shores wasn't even there. The second and third phase of Audubon 2 wasn't even there. So we were going on that until 2018. And so I think with that, because we have a lot of maps, of course, Oakwood Shores, the Audubons that we were able to provide to the engineers, and they were able to build based on the 99 maps and give us what we now have for the 2018. I think it's fairly complete.
So how many layers are you looking at right now? 4, 5?
I would like 4, but it's really going to be dictated by the price. I don't want to ask for an exorbitant amount of money because I really just want water and wastewater. If I can swing streets and drainage, I think it's all the more better for the city.
So 4 layers?
I'd like to.
Yeah.
Can you always add a layer at a later date?
You can. You can add zoning. You can add topography. You can add all kinds of stuff. It's almost limitless. It can break you.
So this is
Said
the initial
dollars.
So this is basically the initial software is what you're buying, and at later dates you can buy
And
expansion packs.
Correct. And the setup. It's just the shape files have to be developed for whatever you're doing.
And you mean by zoning, like residential, like that?
Absolutely.
Like BCAD style?
Absolutely. Have your zoning lines, and you can tap on there and there's your restrictions and everything.
Might have a budget amendment too then. Just kidding. Saved me some calls about what zone am I in?
So that's what I'm requesting, council. I respect Councilman Challenger's positions. If you would like to approve, I'd appreciate it. If you want to wait, I can show you the maps we have and try to get a demo
You have to wait a little while, get the dust off of them, huh?
This,
And collect all your stickies.
oh, no, we make copies, buddy. We use them live. Yeah, they're wrinkly.
I think it's a great idea going forward for the city to get this done.
Would it be interactive on the website where people could look up stuff?
You would have one license that could do that. So you, that could look at it, one that could make modifications.
Right.
So,
Just
yeah,
to look at it.
we would probably,
Are you asking for the general public? That would require a viewer license for everybody who's gonna view it.
yeah, I think we could probably do something, maybe a link on the website or a page specifically dedicated to the maps, but it's just gonna show you an overview.
Right.
Your water lines, basic sizes, hydrant locations, valve locations.
I mean, really, if they need this information, they,
Just
I
call
guess they come
Yeah.
talk to
Yeah.
Cliff.
And this,
Well,
this
if you
is-
had an up-to-date PDF, once you
Yeah.
get everything in there, have an up-to-date PDF, you can post that on the
Yeah.
city.
that
We
would be
could
the
PDF.
better way to go, yes, sir.
And then just
Anybody can view
update
that.
it with modifications if they're added.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, just
Yeah.
to that point, our actual like zoning map has not been updated since, what is it on there? 2009? Like it still shows our newest apartment complex as a business, as commercial zoning. So I get calls frequently about,
Yeah,
how is there an apartment complex in a,
there's a lot of potential with
So-
it.
Yeah.
Just to get started, I think it's
sounds good.
it's a better future for public works and water distribution and wastewater collections alike.
Yeah.
This is postponed. Do you see this being more expensive next year or when this is brought back?
Yeah, everything's gonna be more expensive.
That's what I would
next year.
assume.
Yeah, everything's more expensive.
I
You
just,
mentioned it was cheaper.
like I said,
Yeah.
in light of what happened here recently, I think it's a good time for council to consider this. I think you'll see the need. I think that it's a heck of a lot more affordable than what it was in 2018.
Yeah, that's what you're
We
saying.
have the money. We're in a good spot to make this move.
How long would it take to get it, like, once you,
He did not tell
Yeah,
me,
the timeline.
Jeremy. I would imagine we would be probably up and running within half a year.
Next summer-ish.
So the 17,000 is basically research.
Yeah, it's some research.
Data entry.
Yeah, data.
It takes a
entry.
lot of time
They
to
said something
input all
about
that
going to the
information.
county and all kinds of stuff.
Correct.
Yeah.
And
Going
I
through
guess
the
it depends
closet.
on how many layers you want to get.
Yeah.
You know, it's they might get baseline borders from the county, but you know.
So if
water
we had something really well organized, would the cost go down? If we were like, look, this is everything we have, we just want you to put it into a file.
I don't know if it would, just because of the development of the shape files, from what I understand. It's that data entry, that research, and the time they have to spend doing that is what's lengthy. So I don't think we could get anything more than what we have, minus some notes that I could provide that have the North Water Plant information that we already do have. We would include that to be on there, but I don't necessarily think it would make the price go down if we were any more detail. And he says, like I said, I did include the email here, I do believe. When he cites the 17,000, I don't know if I included that sentence. He's like, we're not sure if we even meet that. They're trying to be conservative, but like I said, it depends on how many layers we want to do. I'd like to get at least water and wastewater, so we might not even get to the 17. I just want to be safe.
I think it's definitely a good idea. Mike,
Any
this
other
was a
questions?
good point you brought up, so thank you for bringing this up.
I have issues all the time. People come in without schematics, and it's like, we'll figure it out. It's going to take a while, though.
It's trial and error at that point.
Mm-hmm.
But, and that's definitely not this case. We have a lot of the baseline figured out for us. But, the ability to update these maps in real time opens a whole nother world of possibilities for maintenance, to inform council on what's what. It's a shame that we dig it up 70 times a year and we note several things during that year and we just have no way to effectively document that.
So this is essentially making your job even easier. You're gonna be the self-checkout kiosk at this
I
point.
think, I think it's gonna make my job, I think it's gonna make council's job.
So our budget's gonna go down next year?
I think it's,
I'll
We
tell
have to
you
get
one
the
thing that would be
excavator
good is
back?
if we knew what the part number of the valve was under the ground before we got to it.
You
Is
have it on
that, is
order?
that kind of what we're looking at here?
sir,
That's
we can
awesome.
provide that information, brand, manufacturer, part
Whatever
number,
information you want to put in.
exactly, your
I
manufacturer.
guess one thing I've ran into in the past is you pay for this software. Now, if you stop paying for the software, you don't have it anymore. Is that?
Well,
possibility?
once it's developed, it's transferred to a web-based program, and that's what that, $550 and,
That's what the recurring costs
Basically
are.
$1,000 a
Yeah.
month,
Correct.
$1,000 a year going
so,
forward.
and that is owned by Arc Mapping, who developed, GIS software. You used to be able to get your own system and have it on a server at your place. You no longer can do that. Or somebody used to be able to host it for you, being an engineering firm or something like that, but now it's through Arc Mapping. If they go down, maybe, I doubt it.
Call me old school,
GIS.
but I like to see it on paper.
Huh?
Call me old school, but I like to see it on paper.
We can always put it on paper.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the development of GIS mapping system in an amount not to exceed $20,000.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Let the record reflect, the motion carries.
Thank you.
I don't wanna see you outsourced, Cliff. We need you too much up here. You're outsourcing yourself.
They have plenty of work to do.
He's got a baller to fix. Next is discussion and consider approval of Resolution 23-R-81, adopting rules of procedures for elected and appointed officials.
So this is just the same document I presented last month. There were no requests for modifications, so I'm bringing it back with the resolution to adopt.
Anyone have any discussion on that,
I just had
for changing it?
a quick question and trying to refresh my memory.
Mm-hmm.
This was brought up, what was the reason for bringing this up again? Or like, is it to
It's in our
modify?
charter
Okay,
that the council will set rules for themselves, and we've never had anything formally adopted.
gotcha.
The
So,
charter review brought it up last time.
yeah,
So this stems from the charter review.
yes, sir. 'Cause
Right,
I mean,
okay.
it's been in the charter, I think, since creation, and they never adopted rules. Which you
Interesting.
could probably tell by past meetings, I guess.
Yeah.
But so I presented it last year, I think, and it didn't go in. No one really seemed interested in adopting at that point, so I'm trying to bring it back again.
Gotcha.
I'll make a motion to approve item C.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Let the record reflect that the motion carries with Councilmember Challenger opposing.
So now we gotta make sure we have all the rules for the next meeting, right?
All right,
It's stuff we already do.
I know.
Most everything is already in place.
we don't have any items removed from consent agenda.
No, sir.
Guess we get to see Cliff again with this capital improvements project update.
The North Water Plant, for all intents and purposes, is complete. Our final walkthrough, we're talking with Strand and the still involved contractors that have not achieved substantial completion, being WW Payton, to set a time for final walkthrough. We are still doing a couple modifications on SCADA here and there. We're finding some small bugs here and there, which we might work through those for a couple of months. Nothing crazy, and we're working through it just fine. One of the bigger things with SCADA is, everybody needs to be on site, water in the tank, everything in automatic, so they can manipulate the SCADA system to ensure that it will run in automatic, it will be called up. That's really all they have to do and all they have left. We're anticipating the next few weeks. I think Morgan helps me out with these with Strand, with these reports. I think we're saying that probably because of the holiday. is coming up. They have the O&M manuals from W.W. Payton for the booster station. They are currently reviewing those, and I think they're going to try to take their time to make sure that they're reviewing them thoroughly. It's been a long time coming. I think that Strand wants to make sure there's no more hitches, if we can avoid them at all. It's been pushed back 3 times, and everybody's ready to be done, and we're ready to have our gear online. So, the ARPA emergency generator South Water Plant booster pump station. So the South Water Plant, Strand is currently working through shop submittals with the contractor, Matula. The generators, I believe I mentioned it in the weekly report, the advertising has been pushed. I think this was largely in part to my stubbornness. I tried to require a specific brand when we started, type generator, which is sole source, and you can't do that with these grants. And what we were trying to do was avoid some of the horror stories we've already heard from generators being provided by ARPA grant funds that are dual fuel, no name, just kind of, people are already having problems with them a year later. We were trying to avoid that, so we're trying to get around some language barriers legally, still fit within the required language and be approved, but also they're taking that time so I can satisfy additional requests for information. We don't have any engineering schematics on the service center, which is one of the sites scheduled for generator install, and it's pretty extensive. It powers a lot. So we're trying to get them as much information as we can, keep the costs as low as we can, because we have a finite amount of money we're working with. So we're doing our best to help them out when we can, not have them down here, the engineer with the electrical engineering team and everything else. So we're working through that. The new bid schedule is going to be January 10th and January 17th. Bid opening is anticipated January 25th, and then bid award at the February council meeting. Keep in mind, council, we still have through December 2024 to complete this. So we're doing okay. We're okay on time. The Richwood Mint Mod pavement drainage and water main improvements. Construction limits provided to public management on August 6th, 2023, so the environmental review can commence. We did have a meeting with the engineers, 90% design meeting. So 90% was done. So what they do is they bring those 90% drawings to me. We talk through the whole thing page by page just to make sure nothing needs to be changed before they finalize these plans. And lo and behold, we found a couple of things. Really, it's how the project is going to be bid. We initially had the base bid including the streets and the drainage. Due to our restriction of funds, we had to take the water and break it up into 4 sections. When you start getting bid alternates like that, and that many, sometimes it could be a little bit deflating to contractors bidding on it. Less bid alternates are probably better. So we're already at the 2 million mark, which is what we had in reserve for construction, with the streets, drainage, and new water services. So services at least to the old lines if we can't replace them with new distribution. The reason we're putting that in the base bid is because we now face an inventory TCEQ for these service lines and the material they're made up of. And this area is probably one of the older in Richwood, so the lead content of it is probably higher than what's actually allowable. And we're going to end up changing them anyway. So past that, we're going to put all of the water for the entire project in a bid alternate. But ultimately, I just want to forewarn council that if it's something we want to fund at that time, it will probably require a resolution from you guys for additional funds. So we're probably looking, we don't have finite numbers on it yet, but we're probably looking at another $500,000 to get the water done. But in the base bid, we have the streets, drainage, and water services as of now. So and we are waiting on GLO to give us the final notice to proceed. And as soon as we do that, we'll start advertising. But now it's just waiting on the state. Streets, Oakwood Shores should have their prime coat applied to the road surface as soon as the weather clears, according to what the asphalt crews are telling me. And I think I've hopefully illustrated in the weekly reports about the plant closure, and hopefully we'll see that plant open back up to other contractors on the 27th, and beginning of December we'll start laying asphalt, best case scenario. But that's all I have.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Sounds like you got an easy job.
No problem.
Next is city manager's report.
Mayor, Council, the Clute draft agreement was approved by their council this week. We got our copy back, and Mayor signed our copy tonight, so we're all done with that. I sent it out with the report last week, so no changes to that, so it's exactly as is. Also discussed the supports holding up the pavilion at Ellis Park were found to be rotting out. We're working on getting quotes for repairs on that. Completed site inspection of the Public Works barn with Cliff last week and some other things. That's old fuel island tanks, pumps, and all that, which kind of leads me into an early version of future agenda items. I really would think it would be beneficial to get council to actually go over to the city barn. There's several things that I don't think pictures do them justice. I think if we walk the property, and while we're there, we might as well hit the community building, because a lot of this ties together. So there's just some issues over there. I think if we could get council to do a field trip and maybe meet over there as part of our council meeting, I think we can kill a lot of topics off with going side on there, but some significant projects coming over that way.
Do we have any workshops coming up? Like a Saturday workshop? Do we have any coming up?
Not any coming up till probably
Budget.
February or March.
You wanna
Would we
it
just do
then?
like an
Tie it in
early-
with something like that where we're already committing a Saturday?
We could actually do it as part of a council meeting. Meet down there as part of the council meeting.
We'd have to do it early
wouldn't
though,
take
right?
long, might, I think 30, 40 minutes, maybe. If
Well, I mean,
that.
it's dark when we get here at 6.
And I think it's fine. We can light up what we need to light up, but
Okay.
I think discussing some of these items with pictures aren't going to do them justice, because some of these council members have never been in there, and I think we need to go hands on.
Okay.
Also, an alert about the story about the water quality this morning. I think we've issued a formal response to that, and we'll bring this back to council as an agenda item for discussion. Point blank, and we issued our response today. It's the same response we issued almost 4 years ago. Our water meets all requirements for consumption. Now, does that mean we are safe from any chemicals or anything? No. But we meet all of the TCEQ requirements. The part of the article ran on some of the findings that we have from participating in another extended form of testing that we now do, which is the UCM5, whatever the case may be. But it was also, we'll bring that back to council, because I think we need to bring a consultant on board for future items. And we need to have this discussion with council. But as it stands today, right now, our water is as safe as anybody's water in the area. That's it. So we'll bring that back to council's agenda item. We're also currently, as I sent out this weekend, having some issues with our insurance. We moved quickly on that. We're getting some bids to come in, and we will likely have a special call meeting within the next 3 or 4 days for council to review these insurance opportunities due to our insurance being quelled by the end of the month. That's all I've got.
Thank you, sir.
So does that mean you're gonna have a set agenda, or is it gonna be a workshop, or how are we gonna do that?
It will be an
want a
agenda
workshop,
item
don't
for
you?
discussion.
No, I don't want a workshop, I just,
Maybe it'll be a meeting where we present.
findings. No, I mean, when I saw that email Friday, I was like, high level of concern there,
You and
red
me
lights
both.
going off.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah, it was pretty tragic. I found out at about 5:20 in the afternoon. Got on the phone with our insurance broker. By 10 o'clock that evening, we had resubmitted our census paperwork thanks to Kirsten. And by 7 o'clock the next morning, we received bids. We have bids online now. We're compiling those bids and we will bring them back to council to look at everything side by side.
We're just comparing to get the best.
Are you thinking later this week, maybe?
Probably.
Just for,
Yes, ma'am.
okay,
We will
planning.
be planning a
Okay.
date at some
We,
point this week.
we meet with him again tomorrow and another broker. We're actually getting multiple, but yeah, we're hoping to meet with them tomorrow and we will get with council, see when we can do the next available time and get it done.
Okay.
And like I said, we've tried other things with TML, it's just not gonna happen, so. We can discuss that when we bring it. That's all I got. That's all I got, like you said.
Okay, Councilmember Johnson, do you have anything to add?
So yeah, we had a CCPD meeting last week, went really well, and I was hoping Chief would be here so we could talk about it a little bit, but possibly bringing some things back to council, but I'll get it on the agenda for the next meeting if anything. And then also I'd like to thank KRB for a great trunk or treat. Very nice, thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, sir.
Nothing.
Councilmember Challenger, nothing? Councilmember Reynolds?
So I was unable to attend because I was in Maine, but I saw and heard that Trunk or Treat was another success. Fantastic turnout. I think the last 2 years it's worked really great to kind of work in tandem with Polk when they have their festival going on, and I think it was really great for the community and brought everybody together.
Well,
So
it's turned into a mutual event.
thanks
Seemed
for
like-
the city staff and all of you guys participating also. That was great.
Thank you, ma'am. Councilmember Escalante?
Yeah, let's say the fire department just left, but I wanted to tell them thanks for the presentation. I think it shed light on how expensive fire department equipment costs, as well as like Cliff's equipment is always expensive. But fire department equipment is just as expensive. A tanker and an engine truck is $500,000 easily, if not more, as everything goes up. And then lastly, I checked, and maybe we have a plan of action. We have a 1 day and 21 hours left for the Playscape that's on govdeals.com. It hasn't reached a reserve yet, so we might want to know what our next plan of action in case it doesn't hit a reserve. What we do next.
I have lots
so.
of watchers. I hope they're waiting just till the last minute to
Right.
Hit bids.
Snipe
start
it.
fighting each other.
Yep. But yep, that's all I have.
Thank you,
Thank
sir. Councilmember Fountain? Anything to add?
I'm okay this week, nothing.
Nothing?
Much going on, no.
We're all ears.
Yep.
Okay. I'd first off like to thank our veterans. Thank you guys for all your service, current, former, and future. Without you, this country wouldn't be as great as it is. So I'd like to thank you guys. Leslie, I'd like to thank you for your trunk or treat. That was an amazing event, and I look forward to helping you build it next year if possible. The kids had a lot of fun, so I was very happy for that. Laura's gone, but I wanted to thank her again for her 5 years. Cliff, you don't get thanked enough, but thank you very much for your stuff. It's all behind the scenes that no one gets to appreciate, but I know what you go through, brother. It's a lot of stuff. Thank you. I know we got another meeting, but the audience that was here, I was going to tell them Happy Thanksgiving if we didn't get to see them before then. So Anybody watching, happy Thanksgiving to all those folks. And that's all I have. Items of community interest.
So I added this just because sometimes we have things going on in our area or in the city that may not be touched on during comments or reports or agenda items. So I'll kick this first one off with information on Shop with a Cop. We do this every year, Chief and I with his officers' help. We try and take donations, so if you know anybody that wants to donate to our program, our goal is to serve underprivileged kids in our area, our city. I take applications. I try to serve everyone that applies, and luckily we have been fully funded to be able to do that for the last 2-3 years. Last year we helped 45 kids. They each got to, I think, get $200 in toys and gifts at shopping each. And it's so much fun. So if anybody wants to help on our shopping day, that's fun too. So I have applications online. They're due by December 8th. And then winners will be notified by phone on December 12th. We will probably shop that following weekend. And that's all I have.
All right. So this is going to be a recurring thing for the community interest?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, that's cool. Future agenda items?
Insurance, water quality. We've also had a request for an executive session for the item we talked about,
Yes.
security. And I'm sure we'll have more items before then.
Yes. Do we anticipate the insurance and the water thing this week?
Most definitely the insurance thing, and we'll try to get
And
Mike's, Mr. Challenger's on that one as well.
Okay.
And I'll have
Sooner the better.
I'll have a replat, maybe 2.
Okay.
So
I've got a couple items that I wouldn't mind talking about. I've noticed on the news a couple cities under the microscope in regards to bidding. I'd just like to make for sure that we're all protected when it comes to going out in that realm. And another aspect would be, maybe just a better process, because I watch the facts, and I just don't see it. It seems like we could if we cast over a wider net. I don't want to go into discussion over it right now, but just put possibly bidding process on there. I'd also like to see some business opportunities in the city, and I think that maybe we could make some relationships with Freeport. It's seen a lot of growth over there, and just maybe get the staff to start pursuing relationships over there. Kind of a funny thing to talk about, but in regards to Prop 1, I believe it passed. I'm not sure, but one of the things is chickens. Maybe we could talk about actual noise ordinances, just in case someone does decide to get some chickens in their yard.
We have a chicken ordinance already.
Right, I think Prop 1 might change that, is what I was getting at. So, but yeah, that's about it. So.
Okay. Time is now 7:42. If no other business to discuss, this meeting is adjourned.
Yay, sir.
So I forgot